Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well done for making it back from lunch. And welcome to the first session this afternoon. Just a quick reminder, do keep tweeting away, hashtag Act for Earth. And also, if you haven't already, do download the app, WSDs 2018 on your app supply. You'll find it there. It's got everything that's going on in the summit on there. Right, we're now going to have a really interesting session on energy efficiency, focusing on upscaling. And we've had lots of focus so far in the summit on energy generation, on the importance of shifting energy generation to low carbon sources. And we've rightly celebrated the rise of solar and other renewables, and that's tremendous stuff. But there's a better kind of energy than solar. There's a better kind of energy than any kind of renewable. And that, of course, is the energy that you don't use in the first place. So designing out the need for energy has to be at the heart of any meaningful strategy on climate change. And that's what we're going to be hearing about this afternoon. We've got a tremendous panel. I'm going to invite them up one by one. We'll start with the chair, who's Mr. Ajay Shankar, a distinguished fellow at TERI and the former Secretary of the Department of Industrial Trade and Promotion in the Government of India. And then in absolutely no particular order, Dr. Rene van Berkel, the India representative of UNIDO, that's the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Mr. Prasad Hegde, Senior Vice President and Global Head of Operations of Wipro Limited. Mr. Prakash Kumar Singh, who's the Chairman of the Steel Authority of India Limited. Professor Kazuhiko Takeuchi, who's President of the Institute of Global Environmental Strategies. And a very special guest, Mr. Ajay Jain, who's Principal Secretary of Andhra Pradesh. And a little later, joining us on video will be Rachel Kyte, who's CEO of Sustainable Energy for All, and Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for All. And I think before I hand over immediately to Mr. Ajay Shankar, we're lucky enough to be able to unveil a poster from the state of Andhra Pradesh, which is celebrating energy efficiency and the very best in energy efficiency. So may I invite you now to present us with this poster. Dr. Mathur, Director General of TERI, is going to join us. And this celebrates everything that Andhra Pradesh is achieving towards the goal of energy efficiency. We'll recycle the paper very efficiently as well. Thanks very much indeed. Thanks, Dr. Mathur. It's a celebration of Amaravati, the world's most sustainable city. So in a second, I'll hand over to our chair, Mr. Ajay Shankar. I believe we're going to start after that with the video from Rachel Kyte, followed by Professor Takeuchi's presentation, and then we're going to take a series of short questions. So there'll be a little voting session, so I shall pop up again after we've heard from Professor Takeuchi. Now, over to you, Mr. Shankar.
Well, a couple of decades back, it used to be said that energy efficiency is the lowest hanging fruit in this quest for sustainability and trying to cope with the challenge of climate change. And experience has demonstrated that this was right. So globally, since 2000, the world has saved about 12% through energy efficiency and energy consumption. That's an enormous saving. It's the equivalent of the EU's energy consumption. We in India have done, again, extraordinarily well in terms of energy efficiency, and a lot goes to the dynamism of the present DG of TERI, who did extraordinary work when he became the first head of our Bureau of Energy Efficiency. We will begin our session with a video from Ms. Rachel Kyte. She is the CEO of Sustainable Energy for All, SEforALL, and Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for All.
To all of you participating in the WSDs, hello to the fellow members of the steering committee, and hello to all my dear friends at TERI and everyone in the Habitat Centre in New Delhi. I'm so sorry that I can't be with you today. My name is Rachel Kyte. I am the CEO of Sustainable Energy for All and the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for All. It's so important that you're talking about how to upscale energy efficiency. It wouldn't seem to be so difficult. It would seem to be so obvious. It is the cheapest, fastest way to bend the curve and achieve the Paris Agreement, coming in with an emissions profile for the planet and the economy that is well below 2 degrees. It is a sensible measure of productivity as we drive economies to meet everybody's needs in an equitable way and in a way that doesn't imperil the air quality, water quality, and the ability to live and enjoy that productivity. And yet it's so elusive, it's so difficult. The pace of innovation in other areas of the energy transition amazes us, and yet when it comes to energy efficiency, not so often, not so much. At Sustainable Energy for All, working with one of our partners, the World Bank, one of our knowledge partners, we looked at the regulatory indicators for sustainable energy, and we saw that there was no country in the world that optimized its regulatory framework for energy efficiency. And this would seem to be a first order of business for all economies. Of course, this meeting takes place in India, where India's put a premium on energy efficiency and has experimented, and those experiments are things now that many others are beginning to look at. But we have to ask ourselves, here in 2018, with only 12 years to go till the achievement of the SDGs, and running out of time in terms of climate action, why we can't galvanize ourselves more persistently, more comprehensively, more consistently around a revolution in energy efficiency. Recently in Davos, I was impressed to see business leader after business leader challenging the overarching narrative of all of the tremendous things that are happening on the supply side of the energy transition and saying, really, the revolution is on the demand side. Listening to ABB and other electricity utilities and other companies from all around the world talking about what they can do with technology today to save energy, both on the supply as well as on the demand side. How do we make them the heroes? How do we get as excited about that as we do about some of the new technologies and new forms of energy and renewables? I want to talk to you for the last minute about something that we're working on that I know is very close to TERI's heart and to many others of you in the room, and that is cooling. The intersection of SDG 7, the Paris Agreement, and the Kigali Amendment of the Montreal Protocol means that we have to ask ourselves a very simple question. How will we provide cooling for people, all people, living everywhere, so that the growing cities of the world, for example, are livable at high temperatures for many days in the summer? So how do we provide cooling for all people, and how do we guarantee the cold chain for medicines and food? How do we do that without F gases, and how do we do that in a super efficient way? What are the investment pathways that asking that question opens up for us? What are the fast action pathways? Because of course we know that all action on short-lived climate pollutants will buy us time as we struggle to decarbonise our energy system and decarbonise the economy. Here is something that I look forward to working with many of you on in the year to come. We will publish the Global Panel on Cooling for All's report in June, July. Please look for it. But in the meantime, I wish you the greatest of success. Please find a way to make energy efficiency sexy again, and we will all be better off for it. Thank you.
To continue, we will again look for a global perspective, and also in terms of what technologies are there and are emerging. And I'll request Professor Kazuhiko Takeuchi, President of the Institute of Global Environment Strategies, to give us a global perspective. You have a PPT if you'd like to make it from there or here. It's up to you.
Sure.
It's come up.
Thank you very much, Chair, for your kind introduction. And I would like to express my sincere thanks for the DG, Dr. Matsu, for inviting me to this great opportunity. We are having a very long history of collaboration between the TERI and IGES, and we are hoping that we could further strengthen our collaboration. Let me talk about the Japanese experience to promote energy efficiency in terms of how we could upscale our individual activities. This is a slide showing the events and the energy intensity trend of Japan. You could see since the 1970s, the great reduction has been achieved. And there are two events which became the trigger of reducing significantly the CO2 emissions and energy efficiency improvements. One is oil crisis, and this will bring us the new act, which is called the Energy Conservation Act, enacted in 1979. And this was a very important milestone for us in terms of reducing of the CO2 emissions and improving of the energy efficiency. And the second one is, of course, the Kyoto Protocol. Japan committed to reduce the CO2 emissions drastically. And there are various efforts that we took in the past. There are mandatory measures to achieve the energy efficiency by reducing 90% of the energy consumption in the industrial sector, 70% residential sector, and 50% in the commercial sector. So we asked individual companies and prefectures and cities to conduct the energy management, and also we asked them to apply the so-called top runner standards, which I will explain you later on in the more details. This is a mandatory measure to achieve the energy efficiency we call the top runner program. If you could see this picture, the highest level of the energy efficiency at this moment could be at the lowest standard of the future target. And then once we could achieve this target, more than the previous top runner, and then all the, for example, this case, car industry could achieve the energy efficiency. And also, this type of approach could be applied to the other sectors, in the various sectors, so that in the various sectors they could really achieve, for example, nearly 50% of the reduction in automobile company, and air conditions 32%, and so on. And this is another trial by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. We call the Cap and Trade Program. The local government, this is the first case in the world to set up some sort of level of the cap, and then exceeding the companies more than the cap, and they can buy the rights of the emissions from the company which achieved the emission rate lower than the cap. And so that as a result of these activities, and we could reduce nearly the 30% of the CO2 emissions and improve the energy efficiency. in the last 10 years or so by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. And this government also tried to set up some various goals, how they could increase a portion of renewable energy, and how they could promote the reduce, reuse, recycling, and reduce the waste. And also, they try to invite many citizens and stakeholders to this initiative in order to achieve the 2030 goals. This is mandatory approaches by the Kyte, the biggest association of the companies in Japan. And many of the big companies are belonging to this association, and they set up their voluntary emission target. And also they asked the individual company to report the template in order to assess their achievement in terms of energy efficiency, and as a result, reducing of the CO2 emissions. And also ask them to plan, do, check, act processes so that they could effectively improve their energy efficiency. And also the campaign is very important in Japan. During the summertime, we say cool biz. It means that we need not to wear the jacket. We can remove our tie in the summer, and so that we can work comfortably in a hot environment. And vice versa is warm biz during the winter season, not to use the heat, but to wear more clothes so that you can save the energy. And also, setsuden is saving electricity. So if the room is heated, and you go outside, and you can turn on the electricity, and so that you could save the energy. This is how we could move forward. The industries are okay because they are having integrated efforts, for example, by Kyte and so on. But if you talk about the commercial sectors, the residential sectors, so they are more individual, and it's very difficult to ask them to take a common action. And so this is our challenges in order to improve energy efficiency. However, you could see that we could reduce lots of energy in the last years, and we are looking forward that we could further reduce with a target of 40% or so in the coming 10 and more years. About the international cooperation, as Mr. Takeuchi already mentioned this morning, IGES and TERI are now developing the joint initiative in both countries, and so that we could collaborate with the private sectors to reduce the CO2 emissions and improve the energy efficiency by not just introduce, but to improve the Japanese technology here in India. And so this joint initiative is quite important. And also the JCM, Joint Crediting Mechanism. At this moment, India is not a subject for this JCM, but during this 3 days meeting, we try to find out the way of developing the joint crediting mechanism between Japan and India, and so that we could apply, for example, this case to the fishing companies as a test case. And also, there are many types of approaches that we could further consider, and I hope that IGES will continuously collaborate with TERI for the upscaling of the improvement of the energy efficiency. Thank you very much.
In fact, I remember visiting Tokyo and trying to understand this runner program of yours, and I was amazed. And finally, we have emulated you in having a perform, achieve, and trade program, and which is beginning to deliver very good results in a very short period of time. So let me seek another global perspective.
I
And
think actually, Mr. Shankar, sir, we're just going to move to these little voting questions now, sir.
I stand corrected. So,
All right.
so we have a little voting on issues. So the questions will come up, and please vote.
So we're ready with the votes?
Yes.
In a few seconds. So you know how to do this? You've all got your gizmos with you? Here we go. Right, which sector do you believe is the highest potential for energy efficiency improvements? Interesting question. Highest potential. You'll get 10 seconds to vote. Here we go. 9, 8, etc. Whoa, so fairly even. Industry the highest, and then residential, commercial, and transportation roughly next to each other, and agriculture way down. I suspect that maybe reflects the fact that lots of people don't know much about agriculture rather than any reality. But any brief comments from the panel on that first before we move on to the next one? Harry?
Yeah, my argument is going to be that residential and commercial buildings has the highest potential to optimize. The headroom in that sector is much higher than any other. So I'll make that argument in my remarks.
Yeah.
And substantiate why do I say that.
Okay, let's move on to question number 2 of 3. Oh, quite a long one there. Kind of policies, programs you think will accelerate the uptake of energy efficient technologies? So new technologies themselves, building capacity and awareness, new business models, support with implementation, and concessional financing. This would be interesting, right? We got the 10-second countdown? Okay, so the answer lies with smart new business models in particular. And very few people think it needs concessional financing, which is interesting.
Which is encouraging.
Kind of encouraging, isn't it, if you're holding the purse strings particularly. Okay, should we crack straight on with question number 3, the last question this afternoon, or in this session anyway? Right, priorities for transport. Will you have more mass rapid transport, smart public transport, more EV infrastructure, so more charging stations, I guess that means, more city infrastructure conducive for non-motorized transport, so people rediscovering the use of their legs, whether walking or on bicycles perhaps, and then tight fuel standards. Interesting. So you all want to get back on your bikes, and you're also happy to get on the bus or the metro as long as it's a rapid transit one. Nobody's particularly interested in fuel standards, perhaps because we're moving beyond the days of fossil fuels to power transport. Any quick thoughts? No, I think I shall hand back to you, Mr. Shankar, to carry on with the session. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
So may I request the representative of UNIDO, Dr. Rene van Berkel, to give another international perspective, especially with reference to the developing economies.
Okay, thank you very much. The bar is high because everybody thinks that industry is the one who can do most on energy efficiency. So I represent UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. So we work with developing countries, India and others, on industrial development for poverty eradication, globalization of trade, and then environmental sustainability. We've worked for 5 decades in India now, mostly on micro and small and medium enterprises to connect them to the global markets. But in recent years, also much more on green industrial development. So specifically for this session, UNIDO works with on industrial energy efficiency in MSMEs with our colleagues of the Bureau of Energy Efficiency in TERI, introduction of renewable energy technologies with MRE, and also on clean and low carbon technology innovations, mostly with the Ministry of MSMEs. In short, energy efficiency is our proverbial bread and butter, particularly when it comes to manufacturing-related productive sectors. That's also a disclaimer for the rest of my remarks, which are based on industrial energy use and may not exactly be replicable for other energy uses. Yet, on the other hand, let us keep in mind that energy accounts for at least 30%, 1/3 of energy use. Let me focus on the scaling topic, because scale speaks to the imagination, as is indeed urgently needed in face of the energy and climate challenges. But what does it mean? In terms of an outcome, we can agree it is a move from saving kilowatt hours to megawatt hours to gigawatts to terawatt, or moving from tons to kilotons, megatons, or gigatons of greenhouse gas emissions mitigation. But how do we get there? Let me highlight 3 pathways. Firstly, making energy efficiency easier. Secondly, making energy efficiency more important. And thirdly, making energy efficiency more effective. So let me come to my first pathway. So that's making energy efficiency easier, means bringing down the transactional costs, so the effort that's needed from an enterprise or another actor to save energy. And thereby we basically get more people, more organizations involved in energy efficiency. This, in our experience, is a matter of the energy efficiency ecosystem. In other words, the services offered to energy users to assist them to become more energy efficient. This would be training, auditing, technology advice, finance, and of each of these, further focus on the needed on AAA rated services that is accessible, appropriate, and affordable. Accessible is like last mile delivery, setting up local first-tier service providers that are easily accessible and can get energy users started with energy efficiency. We have some good experiences with setting up energy management cells right inside industrial clusters, connected and supported by national expert teams. Appropriate then refers to the applicability of the energy efficiency service to maximize the specific benefits for the energy user. It could be not only energy savings, but also the co-benefits, better productivity, better quality, less waste. Here we need to work on localized energy solutions, for which UNIDO has, amongst others, been working on regional, multi-country sustainable energy centers. We hope to launch later this year a center specifically on energy solutions for the mountains, the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, covering the 8 countries, including India, at the Indian International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ICIMOD, in Kathmandu. Affordable, lastly, applies then to the balance of cost and benefits, for which we need to both reduce the cost as well as increase the benefits. We're working to trial this through a combination of customization of technology and finance, as well as bulk purchase, which Energy Efficiency Services Limited in 10 MSME clusters. Second pathway, I think, is making energy efficiency more important and relevant to the energy using, creating greater incentives for energy efficiency, or creating greater disincentives for wasteful energy use, or motivate more energy users to implement energy efficiency measures. It's politically attractive to go soft with low energy prices, yet there is ample and paramount evidence that higher energy prices improve competitiveness. The energy cost of foundries in Germany are lower than the energy cost of similar foundries in Russia, despite German energy prices being much higher. Energy subsidies reward inefficient energy use, and the largest users benefit most. Yet, in addition to energy prices, there are other options for getting energy efficiency higher on the agenda, including mandatory audits, such as the Perform, Achieve, and Trade system, performance standards for motors, boilers, public procurement, and viability gap funding. The latter, though, viability gap funding as a last resort, not as a first relief. There is not enough public money to finance energy efficiency at the scale that is required. The third pathway, let me elaborate on that, is making energy efficiency more effective. That is achieving greater energy savings in every user that we start to work on energy efficiency. In that regard, we see in industry certainly 3 waves of energy efficiency. The first tier concerns the implementation of measures that are obvious to the naked eye, but have been forgotten or simply ignored. The second tier concerns readily available and proven technical solutions that can basically be dropped in on a one-to-one replacement. This third tier then concerns innovations, doing things differently. Just take a simple example of a textile dyeing house. The first tier would involve then the repair of spills and leaks, insulation of equipment, optimization of standard operating practices, instrumentation, and so on. Second tier would involve energy-efficient jet pumps, fuel-efficient burners, or change the low liquor dye equipment. The third tier could involve introduction of enzymatic processes at low temperature, or change over to waterless dyeing processes, or to 3D printing, each of which would not only result in significant energy savings, but also reductions in chemical use and in water use and effluents. Energy efficiency scales up significantly while if we can move from up the tiers, from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3. Unfortunately, though, I think the vast majority of energy audits at best hit second tier, and implementation of energy efficiency measures often already plateaus at the first tier. We need to upskill auditors to energy innovators and reorientate matchmaking for tier 3 technologies towards incubating startup businesses that can really make a living, a business out of these technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, at the core, scaling concerns the move from kilo to mega to giga to tera. We can get there in multiple ways, by making energy efficiency easier, more rewarding, and or more effective. And maybe there's other ways. I would be interested to hear that. Given the scale and urgency of the energy and climate challenges, we cannot be choosy. Rather must do all in parallel with all effort and innovation we can imagine and should mobilize. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that international perspective, let us now look inwards. And we in India have achieved extraordinary results in energy efficiency. The most recent success being in lighting through LEDs, before that in the labeling of appliances. And so now it's time to see what are the next set of low-hanging fruit as far as India is concerned. And we begin with a sector which is a little tough and intractable globally, but where there is enormous potential, and that is the building sector. And within India, it is very important because as incomes rise, everybody would want temperature control spaces for working and living. And so if we achieve a breakthrough here, I think we would really have done a great service to ourselves and everybody else. So I'll request Mr. Hegde of Senior Vice President and Global Head Operations, Wipro Limited, to share his thoughts and experiences, and with some focus on the building sector.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar. Distinguished panel, learned audience. Let me begin with thanking TERI for this opportunity to be here and share my views on building energy efficiency. Energy efficiency at large, but my remarks would be, I would make my remarks around 3 focused areas. 2 around building. In building, the first one would be around operating buildings more efficiently. The second one would be about constructing buildings more efficiently. Time permitting, I would want to make my remarks on what the Honorable Minister mentioned yesterday about distributed energy. That's if time permitting. So let me sort of begin with my argument around buildings. Let me place some data points and substantiate my argument as to why do I think that there is significant efficiency to be unlocked in the way we operate buildings. First is an outcome of a global study which says that in the last decade or so, building systems have become 60 to 70% more efficient, be it lighting, be it design of facade and the building envelope, be it cooling systems. But an interesting outcome out of the study was the net consumption of energy by those buildings have remained flat. Now, that is a startling revelation. That means you have efficient design of systems. You design buildings more efficiently, but they do not yield the commensurate outcome. They're not result into commensurate outcomes. Now, let me go back and try and use another data to broadly substantiate this. This is the IEA report of 2017. It says that electricity consumption went 4x from 1973 to 2015, from 440 million ton oil equivalent to 1737 million ton oil equivalent. But the interesting revelation is in the shift in distribution. The share of commercial rose by 7% from 15.2 to 22.2. The share of residential rose by 4% from 23 to 27.1. So making share of buildings for energy close to about 50%, and in the meanwhile, the industrial share drops from 53.5% to 42%. That would mean, broadly, I would say, that this goes ahead and substantiates my argument that the energy efficiency efforts in industries has progressed beyond the energy efficiency that we could actually achieve in buildings. Now, yes, it's a large opportunity. So what do we do with it? Now let me talk of what we are trying and what we are attempting in Wipro. So it's actually a real project that's on, and it'll be up and running by another month or so. All the building management systems focused on the demand side. When I say demand side, it is not the demand side for power generation. It is a demand side for systems that deliver controlled environment. So all the building management systems focused on how do you control that, how do you align supply based on, be it occupancy sensors, benchmarks, and so on. The other bit that the focus was on how do you design systems and buildings more efficiently. But none of the building management systems actually give you an insight into if your systems have been designed efficiently, do they function and operate at the design efficiency? Now there comes your IoT and the connected world and intelligent addressable devices at the edge. So our argument is that if I have intelligent addressable devices at the edge, I can bring them onto a platform and connect them globally and monitor and unlock those asset efficiency and push them to function at their design efficiencies. And this also shifts the whole idea of pulling in billions and billions of data. If I have intelligent equipment at the edge, I do not have to pull in a large amount of data to my central command center. What I can do is that I can pick up outliers and pick up whenever a system or a device works outside of the efficiency band that I have specified. So this is our effort using technology to get to unlock asset efficiencies. The second remark that I want to make is about construction. There's a recent McKinsey report which says that construction industry has lagged in productivity compared to all other sectors. And one rough estimate is that if it did keep pace, the benefit, that economic benefit, could actually be good to finance the entire year's infrastructure that needs to get invested. Forget about the numbers, but it only goes ahead to state that productivity in construction sector has lagged all other sectors. The second, adoption of technology by construction industry is at the lowest. It's one above farming and hunting. So that means you have significant amount of opportunity to use technology to build more with less. Mr. Singh may not like it, but it's about saying, can I use 50% less steel and cement If I can do that, I can build 2x. And look at it in the Indian context. If we are saying that 70% of what we need by 2050 is yet to be built, and if we are saying that our investment in infrastructure is going to be somewhere around 50 lakh crores, this is an unprecedented opportunity. So are we going to use this opportunity? So what are we doing in the construction bit? There comes the idea of how do you use the understanding and the technology in digital. How do you construct a digital replica or design a digital replica of what you're going to construct well in advance? And if you can do that, that presents itself to immense amount of engineering optimization. And then what happens? If you use the digitally designed model to construct, you have a digital replica of what is built, which you can very effectively use to operate. So these are my two arguments around building. The last one, if you would permit me 2 minutes. Honorable Minister Sinha did mention about distributed energy. I really believe that distributed energy is the way to go to make sure that you have equitable, affordable, renewable energy for all. That would actually mean 2 things, or 3 rather. It would mean distributed generation, and if you're going the renewable way, then you have an infirm distributed generation, and you would need a distributed network of intelligent grids, a neural network of intelligent grids. And Germany is one country that's pulled this off very well. The third part is balancing power. Germany has taken the route of gas as well as storage. Here is a 2-pence idea that I want to table. Now, we are in a very interesting situation. I took a count of captive diesel generating sets in India. The installed capacity of captive diesel generating sets above 500 kilowatts, that is above half a megawatt, is 116 gigawatts. And now I'm talking of sets that are less than 15 years old. That means it's actually 1/3 of your total installed generation capacity in the country. So can we, I know people would cringe and say diesel inefficient. Of course it's inefficient, but before we establish storage and adequate balancing power that is distributed, can we make use of these assets that we have in terms of captive diesel generating sets and grid connect them and use them as balancing power to get higher penetration of infirm renewable energy into the grid. To conclude, I would say that we are faced with an immense challenge and we are faced with an immense opportunity. What we're going to do with it, in my view, will depend on 2 things. One, we don't have to tread the same path that the developing world has tread. Can we leverage technologies of today and tomorrow and pivot to leapfrog? We've done that in mobile technology. We leapfrogged personal computing in India. Can we do in energy efficiency? Second bit is, Rachel did mention about policies. Can our niti would mean loosely policies, be nipuna means smart, and can it make nyaya? Nyaya is about loosely being just and equitable. So if we get these 2 things right, I think we have a great opportunity in front of us that we can actually make use of. Thank you.
In fact, building sector is, I think, one where we can genuinely leapfrog because most of buildings are to come up. And current information is, you also brought out that The technologies are there where you can reduce energy consumption by 50% for temperature control at the same cost, and you can do better things as we go ahead. So one challenge which I leave with all of you to think about is how do we persuade our developers and builders to embrace energy efficiency in terms of the buildings they build sooner than later. With that thought, let me move on to the next sector, which is important and where I am going to request Mr. Ajay Jain, Principal Secretary, Andhra Pradesh Government of India, Government of Andhra Pradesh on energy and infrastructure. Exciting things are happening there, and I am looking forward to a very broad canvas set of remarks with valuable insights.
Thank you, sir. Respected Chair, Mr. Ajay Shankar ji, all the panelist members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank TERI for giving me an opportunity to present in this panel discussion. Well, friends, as far as, those of you who do not know about Andhra Pradesh, it is one of the newly created states in India after bifurcation, with a population of about 50 million, the 8th largest state in the country. So, since 2014, under the leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister, Mr. Nara Chandrababu Naidu, so we said, well, at that time, the state was passing through energy shortage. There was severe energy shortage, and because of that, industries were being put to cut, domestic sector, commercial sector, even agriculture, we were not able to give the required hours of supply. So we said, while generation takes time, the low-hanging fruit is definitely energy efficiency. So we said government would take the lead, and as sir was saying, Mr. Rene was saying, all the three norms, whether how to make energy efficiency easier or more effective and more efficient. So we said we will take energy efficiency as a movement, energy efficiency as well as energy conservation, the both parts, and with government playing the lead role in it. So we started with the domestic sector. So we observed that many of the households, in our country, they use incandescent bulbs of 60 watt, while the same amount or the better amount of energy can be given by a 7 watt or a 9 watt LED. But the problem was that LEDs were much costlier at that time. It was costing about rupees 400 to 450 in the market, whereas the same incandescent bulb was available for 15 to 20 rupees, and hence the people were not willing to invest that much amount of money. Therefore, to make it more easier, we tied up with Energy Efficiency Services Limited, who came forward and they said, okay, we will do a program in which we will invest upfront, and we will call the tenders for procurement of LEDs at the national level, so that the scales become more. So we started this program, launched this program in October 2014, and I am happy to share that since then, of course, in our state alone, we have replaced about 22 million incandescent bulbs, 60 watt bulbs, which has been replaced with 9 watt LEDs, and people are very happy. And here the magic was that this amount was spent upfront by the ESL, and because of that mass procurement, of course, then all other states followed, and the prices fell down from 450 per bulb to about 40 rupees per bulb. So it saw 90% crash in prices. That just shows the kind of potential it was existing. So with that, of course, entire country has taken up, and now it has come to a stage wherein people do not require subsidized bulb. They are willing to go to the market and pay this price of 45 rupees and get an LED. But initially, yes, the drive was taken by the government, and with that we could replace the bulbs. So ESL supplied, and we gave bulbs at 10 rupees to begin with to encourage, and that money was given as a part of a subsidy to encourage this, and later on subsidy was withdrawn when the prices have come down. And today we have a situation wherein more than 90% of the bulbs have already been replaced, and we are looking at by end of 2018, we want to make Andhra Pradesh as incandescent bulb free state. So in the entire domestic sector, we don't want any incandescent bulb. So that is the kind of the opportunities which are existing. Another sector which we started was our own street lighting. We see the street lighting whether in urban areas or in the rural areas. Most of these are again incandescent lights which consume lot of energy, and it's a huge burden for those local bodies also, because the energy bills are very, very high. So we said, okay, again here we adopted the same model, wherein ESL with their access to cheap, low-cost funding from international agencies, they would make the upfront investment, and whatever the savings the local body do in terms of energy savings, in terms of the price savings, that would be shared in the ratio of 70:30 between the service provider and the local body. So local bodies did not have to make any investment, and while the energy bills also came down. So this we started with the city of Visakhapatnam. 100,000 bulbs, street lights were replaced within a record time of 45 days. And since then, about 110 local bodies, all the local bodies in the state have been covered, and about 600,000 bulbs have been replaced. So I'm proud to state that in entire Andhra Pradesh in urban area, you will not find any, even a single incandescent bulb. It is all LED street lighting in the entire state of Andhra Pradesh. And municipalities, the urban local bodies are very, very happy. Their energy bills have come down by 40%. And then the more important thing is accountability has come, in the sense the maintenance is also taken care. And entire thing is linked to a CCMS, Centralized Control and Monitoring System, wherein in my laptop or the Honorable Chief Minister's dashboard, he is able to monitor at any point of time how many streetlights are burning or they are not burning. That means if night they are not burning, they can be questioned. And if it is burning during the daytime, again the concerned person can be questioned as to why they are burning. So it has brought in a lot of accountability, and people are very happy. So going a step forward, we said, why limit it to only urban areas? Why can't we do it to rural areas? Now rural areas, there are 13,000 rural bodies, that is Gram Panchayats, and we have got 3 million streetlights to be replaced. So again, the similar model which has been tried out. So we tied up with the Panchayat Raj Department, the Rural Development Department, and today the replacement is going on. And by November 2018, entire state of Andhra Pradesh, there will not be a single street light which is a conventional street light. So this work is going on. Already about 500,000 out of this 3 million have been replaced, and every month now the replacement. So by November, actually our plan is to declare by October 2nd the entire state of Andhra Pradesh in the street lighting with no incandescent bulbs. Third area which is very, very significant is agriculture. Though of course people voted that agriculture consumes less, but again it depends from which state you are talking about. In our state we have got 1.5 million pump sets. And out of this 1.5 million pump sets, a quick survey we did, about 1 million pump sets are non-ISI motors, which are consuming huge extents. Each motor is about 5 HP or 10 HP, huge amounts of electricity, about 30 to 33% of electricity is going waste. And we provide free power to the farmers, about 7 hours free power to the farmers. This means farmer has, does not have much incentive to save the energy because he is getting free. But it is the government which is paying. So government has a lot of incentive to save that energy. So again, similar model, we said, okay, we will provide the energy efficient pumps by tying up again with ESL. They will procure on a large scale. And the savings the government makes in its annual subsidy, it would be used to repay the loans out of that. So here we have started the program. It is, this year in 2018, now we have started, about already 15,000 pump sets have been replaced, 150,000 pump sets are planned for this year, and idea is over a period of 5 years, all inefficient pump sets will be rolled out, will be replaced with the energy efficient pump sets. So huge, again, savings about 30 to 33% in agriculture sector. Fourth sector, of course, was in the domestic alone, it is not only the bulbs, it is the tube lights, it is the fans, it is the refrigerators, it is the air conditioners, which consume huge amount of energy. So similar program we have started. As far as fans and tube lights are concerned, people are being given, and what we have allowed them is just monthly installments, because people generally do not go for energy efficient appliances because they cost more initially. But then if you see the life cycle cost of the project, it is definitely much lesser. So we said, okay, we will allow you installments and we will recover that amount from your monthly electricity bills. So that was a simple, fundamental change which we brought in. And because of that huge response as far as the fans and the tube lights programs are there, and now we are going to initiate similar program for refrigerators as well as air conditioners. So entire gamut of, residential sector would be covered. Then street lighting, agriculture, and then we said, okay, we will also go for, first we started, of course I forgot one point, we started with government buildings, Because our own buildings, we have incandescent bulbs were there and then inefficient fans were there. So we took an energy audit of all our government buildings, right from the village level to the state government secretariat level, and afterwards again tied up with the ESL. And then we have started replacing all the inefficient equipment in the government buildings. Most of the work has been done already. Then, of course, we were the first state to, announce this ECBC Energy Conservation and Building Code. The bylaws have been introduced, and in urban areas and in all the urban development authorities, it has been mandatory to adopt this code. And one interesting thing, and the last point perhaps I would like to share with you, we are constructing a new capital city. As you know, after bifurcation, Andhra Pradesh is left with no capital, so we are constructing a new greenfield city, Amravati, on the banks of river Krishna near Vijayawada. And the idea of the Chief Minister was that when there is an opportunity, as Mr. Hegde rightly said, this is the era of new technologies, Internet of Things, and so much of technology available. We said we want this city to be really smart city and more important, energy efficient and green city. So here we have tied up with world-class consultants who have designed, and each building is being designed as an energy efficient building, and we'll be very happy to, learn from the experiences of Wipro, what they are doing. And because much of the consumption of electricity in these buildings is through air conditioners. So now instead of going for individual air conditioners, we are going for a district cooling system on the lines of what Singapore Marina has done. We have tied up with them, they are doing it for us to see that how the cost of air conditioning and cooling can be brought down. So this is what we are doing. Apart from energy efficiency, one other area which Andhra Pradesh and the country as a whole is focusing, as you know, is the green energy. Prime Minister Modi has announced a program of 175 gigawatt, and in Andhra Pradesh we are doing 18 gigawatt of solar and wind by 2022. Last 3 years we have added 6,000 megawatt. 6 gigawatt has been added. The world's largest solar park at one location, 1 gigawatt, is in our state. So it is Japanese companies like SoftBank, they have done, Greenco, they have done. So 1 gigawatt of energy, and today we are meeting 22% from renewable energy, against just 2% in 2014. So now we have reached 22%, and the plan is by 2022 we will be reaching 40% to be met from the renewable energy. We are also going for distributed generation at the substation level for the renewables. And even the world's largest solar wind hybrid with storage, with the help of SECI and World Bank, we are doing 160 megawatt at one location. So all this have been very exciting journey for last 3 years. And we did a quick survey as far as the urban street lighting is concerned, agriculture is concerned, because these are the metered connections we could know. Even the residential, going by the bills and the third-party survey, our annual consumption is about 50,000 million units. And in last 3 years, by doing these measures, we have been able to save 2,500 MUs, which is about 5% of saving. And in terms of money, it amounts to almost $200 million annually, which we are able to save for the people, because, and as far as for the government. So I must say that energy efficiency, this is a revolution, recognizing our initiatives. World Bank, they ranked all the states in terms of energy efficiency. I'm happy to share Andhra Pradesh was ranked as the leading state in implementation of energy efficiency measures. We have been receiving awards from the Ministry of Energy Efficiency. Yeah, so I think this has been very exciting journey, and much all we will, try to complete.
I'm told that Mr. Prabhu is a few minutes away, so we will have to cut short, but I will request Mr. Singh to very briefly tell us about the enormous potential in the steel sector as the country looks forward to achieving 300 million tons of steel production. But I'm sorry, it'll have to be a little brief, because as soon as Mr. Prabhu comes, we'll have to vacate it.
About the steel sector, because I had been in the sector for close to almost 4 decades. And the steel sector, I can briefly, because my time has been cut short. And, the energy consumption used to be around 10 gigacalories per ton of crude steel.
I think we may need to vacate the, my apologies. So let me conclude the session by thanking all the panelists, and with the optimistic hope that in the coming decade we will achieve more in energy efficiency than we did in the last decade. And whatever I hear about the buildings and what Andhra has done, I think other states could emulate, and we could certainly surprise ourselves and the world with what we achieve in energy efficiency in the coming decade. Thank you.